Welcome to Coffee Time Live every Sunday with few exceptions. And I know some of you got confused because I did a special edition Coffee Time Live this last Thursday. That was actually going to be an upload video, but for various reasons, it made more sense to me to just go ahead and do it live and save me all that editing. There was a time constraint and there was a laptop issue still. So anyway, purpose of Coffee Time Live is for me to be able to respond in person to you to questions that you have, and I can give answers. So in the live chat, you can pose questions to me. I answer those usually at the end of me discussing various topics. And those topics come from what my week was, anything that happened, any travel, any kind of event. Primarily, it seems that a lot of it has to do with repeat questions that I get that I will then answer in a particular topic. And that's what I'm going to cover today. I've got a couple things. One, I'm going to cover the channel itself, and then I've got a virus update that'll probably be maybe about 15 minutes long. So, hey, Mike. And I do notice that a number of you kind of watch every single week. You know, I'm becoming the habit for you. And if for some reason it doesn't happen, I get messages and emails. And I have to tell you, I actually really appreciate that. I won't say that this channel is my life because it's not, but it is a big part of my life. I mean, every week, it's like a full-time job. So it's as much of my life as whatever full-time job you have or have had. It's like that, because between travel or just going out walking around doing videos, answering emails, doing Skype calls, meeting up with people, if you take all that into account, it's a good 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day. The nice thing is it's very flexible. You may hear a little frog in my throat. I got the sniffles. It is flu season around here. I don't have the flu. I don't have any fever or anything, but I get little congestions now and then. There's nothing new about that, and I'm not sick. Hey, Robert, how you doing? Um, I like those little video clips you send me about how beautiful it is at the beach that you live on in Florida. It's nice. Um, so today, I want to, of course, thank contributors, supporters, sponsors. It's really appreciated. I don't mention it enough. It's very important to me because it's what keeps it going. It's what keeps me um, passionate enough to want to do this as much as I do. And it's not that I'm making money hand over fist, although my ultimate goal is I would love to get this up to the point where I could personally make $300 or $400 a month. I'm very far from that. I have gotten it to the point where it's somewhat self-sufficient, which was my initial goal, but it also has to pay for travel to different places, and I'm actually saving right now a, a big trip, a surprise trip. I've got a long way to go, but I am putting the pennies or the pesos aside for it. Um, so it makes various things important to me doing this channel, and that one day to get the $300 or $400 that I can take after expenses and put it in my pocket would be awesome. It would be a life changer actually because of the low cost here. But I get asked a lot, and I've got this mixed feeling. I don't want to be PBS and out, trying to drum up money all the time. I feel weird about it. I do think I provide value, but I get questions a lot about, what's the best way to contribute? How do I contribute? First, I will tell you that all information is in the comment section, information section below the videos in YouTube. So you can open that up. But I will quickly go through it. I don't want to, go too crazy on this. But there's a number of ways. First of all, and my original is the Patreon account. It's a pretty good way to do it. It is set up as a subscription style. Most people do $5 to $20 a month. I don't have a lot. I'm fortunate if I go a month and I've got more than 10. But it's real, it's there, and it tends to be similar every month. Now you can do a month and then turn around and cancel the subscription, but if you don't, it will repeat. Second way is the GoFundMe account. A lot of people like that because they're more comfortable. They're all safe and they're all anonymous if you so choose. But some people are more content with the GoFundMe, and I have that. Third is Google Pay. That's a direct thing. There's no fees involved for anybody. And that is where I tend to get money that will sponsor trips or something specific, but it's just yet another way. Fourth is direct on YouTube. When I do these live, there's a $ icon. You click on that and you can do a contribution right, when we're doing these things live. Fifth is I'll do Skype calls. Like I just did a Skype call a couple days ago. It's $50. And I go until we run out of time. Well, no, until we run out of topic. As a matter of fact, that one a couple days ago, it was a fascinating call, and it actually ended up going 3.5 hours. So it's not like it charges hourly, but those are actually a lot of fun. It's kind of a connection because they're pretty much always back in the United States. And the new and last one is merchandise. Now, somebody bought a coffee mug already, and I don't know why they chose the color blue. They must really like it, but it was with the logo. But let me give you a quick update on that, and then we'll get to the virus update. The merchandise, it's pretty interesting in that it has a huge line of clothing and products. It's got all kinds of different t-shirts and golf shirts and hoodies and jackets and 4 or 5 different kinds of hats. Speaking of hats, yes, I'm wearing my other, this is my $4 hat. It's my other Colombian hat. The other one is really nice quality. This one's just kind of a straw, but they're both made in Colombia. So there's all kinds of interesting products. There's different style coffee mugs. There's travel mugs and backpacks, all kinds of stuff. And I'm glad that I had located. I've been looking for a long time what would work for me here in Colombia that would do direct shipping and make things pretty easy. And so, I've got it, the account's set up, but I put my logo up there just to get things rolling. And they did the coffee mug, and then they kicked it back to me and said, you're going to have to rework it because I made it myself, and there's some semi-transparency. I don't know exactly what the deal is, but they said it's not clean enough. So I have a friend in Ecuador. She's redoing that logo, and she's doing a coffee time kind of a logo for me also. And sometime this coming week, I should have those. But I also plan on having it as kind of an ongoing thing, like letters on T-shirts, for example, and they'll be well done. The first one I'm going to do it's Colombia, not Columbia. I've joked about that for a long time. I can finally do that. If I get any cute, funny little slogans or things from you guys, I can set that up. And you can get a T-shirt or whatever with that on it. You can also apply different things. So I've got the colors of the flag of Colombia and Ecuador, which are one and the same, and Venezuela is also the same. It's kind of in a swoosh, broken up, artsy kind of thing. And I was thinking about getting a little baseball cap for myself because there's a couple that are really nice with the Grand Colombia logo here, and on the side have that swooshing the colors of Colombia thing. And so I actually designed it. But when you go on this site, you can actually, whatever it is, you can make it larger, smaller. You can place it. If you don't want a logo like this, you can put it over here. You can put it on your sleeve. So it's one of the things I really like about that site is you can set it up pretty much any way you want to do it. So even if you don't plan on buying anything, you might want to go in, take a look at it, look around. Like I said, in about a week, I'll have logos and some other things uploaded. Right now, the only thing that's there is that Colombia, Ecuador colored swash thing, which is actually cool in and of itself. I think it would look really nice on a black t-shirt over here or on the sleeve. So, and I make not a ton of money, between $3 and $5 typically on those items, but I think it's kind of a fun thing to do, and so it's there. And that came from a lot of requests over time from you guys, and so I listen to you and I think about it, and I finally found something that looks like it's going to work. Now let's get to the virus update. I will tell you that when I did the virus thing last Sunday? YouTube demonetized it. They didn't pull it down, so it's still there, but they've kind of buried it out of the algorithm like they do. And so unless you know where it is, or if you go to the channel, you can find it. But they hide it. They did the same thing when I talked about the laws about marijuana in Colombia. There was nothing untoward in either of those. They were just kind of straightforward information. But that's just how they operate. And what kills me is it comes back in both of those cases. They came back with a statement saying it's unsuitable for advertisers. Therefore, we have to kind of hide it and we won't support it. And so you can do a request. So I request a review, and they reviewed it and come back on both of those and say, no, we're sticking with the original. And I would love to ask why, but they won't tell you. There is no why. They just do this. And what I've noticed is they're still advertising on it, and that's what they typically do. So it's just a really good excuse not to give me a portion of that advertising, which is only pennies. But for them, imagine if they're doing this to tens of thousands of videos and they're demonetizing them, but they're still selling advertisements on it, and they get to keep all the money. And that's actually exactly what goes on. And that's why a lot of people are frustrated with YouTube. 3 years ago, I made as much as $300 and some dollars, almost $400 on some months with YouTube. And today, well, this month, I'm up to just over $8, and the month's half over. So you could see, it's like, it's almost a joke unless you're a really big, really popular channel with millions of views. You really don't make anything anymore. And that's why you see more people on YouTube going to things like, subscriptions or Patreon or whatever, because when you begin, it's no big deal. But as you do it for a while, you realize there are costs involved. And then you end up taking it out of your pocket. And, unless you're rich, you got money to burn, you say, well, what am I doing? And so you look to get those things covered. And so that's what goes on with that. But onto the virus update. I don't know if this one will be blocked or not. In Colombia, we've got 34 cases as of last night and no deaths as of last night. Most of these cases are in Bogota and Medellin, most of these cases. But there's a few scattered around. And there is a case in Dos Quebradas, which is about 15, 18 miles from me, which is actually, now it's kind of merged with Pereira. And I used to live in Dos Quebradas some years ago. And there's also a case in Manizales. Now, some of you, good morning. Some of you may know or may remember that this week I was planning to go to Manizales. Justin, my semi-blind neighbor who moved into my building, wants to go to meet Mark or Marco in Manizales, who is like almost entirely blind. He just wants to meet up and commiserate and just, to meet another gringo. And so I said, yeah, I'll take you and we'll go for a couple days. And then Mark said, well, I got this new place. It's 3 bedrooms, so you guys can actually stay here. So very cool, so we were all planned for it. But what's happened now is as the world goes into panic, oh my God, it's the coronavirus, it's coming. Yeah, I do kind of make light of it because the more I look at it, and the numbers worldwide, the numbers, locally, the numbers in the United States, it's such a tiny number. And it seems like it's kind of burning out. The numbers don't seem to be growing worldwide. So this has got to be one of the most hype things in the history of the world when it comes to health. But that aside, it's serious if you're one of those people that have respiratory issues and catch it, like I would be. So we're looking forward to it, but I decided this morning to cancel it because Colombia has just announced a number of things that they're closing. One is the border to Venezuela, because they're finding cases, coming across that border, so they're closing that up. In Ecuador, there's been a lot more serious things going on. I'll talk a little bit more about my trip to Manizales in a bit if I don't forget. In Ecuador, they've announced, the state of emergency. They've shut down all international flights. They've shut down the borders, and you can only get in the border up until I think it's tomorrow if you're a resident, a citizen and a resident, and then they're just, I guess you can't even get in because the deadline for citizens and residents to come across the border is the 16th, which is tomorrow. And that really surprised me. Now, in Ecuador, there's been one death that I'm aware of, and that was a 70-year-old woman, and she caught it in Spain. And it seems like all the cases here in South America, be it Argentina, here in Colombia, I looked up, and you see these charts, and all the original cases and the deaths, which has only been a couple in all of South America, but that have occurred, they all came pretty much from Europe, primarily from Italy or Spain. So, closing flights to Europe probably makes sense, but here in Colombia, I don't see where they've actually done that. But I am concerned about going to Manizales, needing to be here, and finding out that certain bus traffic, particularly since there's now in Pereira and Manizales, which is my trip, that if they decide to close the terminals or bus, for a week or two as a precautionary thing, that's all well and good, but then I'm not here. And so that's why, what the heck, we can do this anytime. So let's just wait until all this craziness is over with and go and not worry about it. I found a couple interesting things about Ecuador. There are tests available. They cost, you have to pay so much for their socialized Obamacare medical system. You pay $250 to $300 for a test. And the fun thing about these tests is I'm not sure where they're coming from, but they're considered to be about 90% accurate. Well, so I guess it's better than flipping a coin, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot, I don't think. It's 24 hours to get results. And last I knew in Ecuador, there's 28 cases, but and I'm not sure, and I can't get clarification on this, but there's dozens and dozens of cases on what they're calling underwatch. You either have it or you don't have it. I don't get it. It almost seems like we have these, maybe, they have the virus, but they're not showing symptoms, but they're not including that in the number of cases. So I don't understand what that is. Also, I don't get this either unless for some reason they're expecting some mass um, wave of death over it. Is they're setting up for cremation of the dead. So if you die of coronavirus, you don't get buried, you get cremated. Um, all I can think of is the Monty Python, bring out your dead. I don't know. It all seems a little surreal, a little bizarre to me, but that's what's going on. So in Ecuador, they've also, you can't get married right now. There's no marriage ceremonies. You can't go to a gym, a public gym. They closed them. There's more government control of things there. Here, I think if there's a gym and you want to go to it and the government says close, they would, it's like, when you start paying my bills, you can tell me. But in Ecuador, it's more government control. So the gyms, theaters, the cinema, these things have all been ordered to shut down. So that's pretty much what's going on here. It's like there's a lot of smoke and no fire, but it does interrupt things that people plan. If there are people that plan trips to Europe or the United States or whatever, and it becomes problematic when you've got all of these, flights canceled or borders, closed down. Flights in and out of Colombia, as far as I know, are still open and available. I do know that they're checking temperatures and things. They've been doing that for a while. Now, that may change at any given moment. It could be changing as I speak, but last I knew, it's still open. Ecuador, no. International flights are closed, borders closed. Here, the only border that's closed is Venezuela, but then, Ecuador turned around, closed their borders anyway, so you got, both north and south borders of Colombia closed down one way or the other. So one of the few border crossings to Ecuador for whatever, like emergency reasons or something, is actually the Rumichanga on the southern border, the one I always cross. I've done lots of videos, going in and out of there. That one is, I guess, will remain open. It's just a matter of who gets to actually cross it. Others, they're just kind of barricading and, no Walking Dead here. Yeah, I think that's what goes through people's mind when they panic over this. They keep thinking of these movies where, it starts out as a virus, and next thing you know, you got hordes of the Walking Dead that you're having to contend with. I don't know. Seems kind of bizarre to me. So if we got any questions, now is the time. Please ask with 4 question marks at the beginning, and I will answer it the best I can. And when it seems that those are fizzling out, then we'll just call it a wrap, and I'll get on with my washing of hands. And I probably should make a run to the store and buy up some toilet paper. Oh, I should mention, when you go out here in Armenia and walk around, you're not seeing masks. Nothing's really changed here in Armenia. It's pretty much the same number of people doing the same things. You go in the store, it looks the same as always. I haven't noticed any differences anywhere for anything. People here in Armenia, everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it, but nobody's really worried about it. It's kind of maybe a que sera, sera thing. I'm going to live my life. I lived fine during the FARC. I lived through the narco bombings and assassinations, and now we got this virus where, I get the sense that it's kind of that attitude. Like, on the list of bad things that have happened in people's lifetime, this is like a speed bump or less. Okay, no questions? Any questions? 4 question marks and a question. If you want to know about the weather, which by the way, it's been very pleasant, and it's been raining in the mornings. In the mornings, as in 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's been really nice. It's been in the 70s lately. Reese, if you were when you were here, it was on some of the hottest. I think you were here on the hottest day on record, um, and then it all broke loose with a lot of wind. Here we're back to just real breezy. We're getting sun, during the day, but it's been the morning rains, like early in the morning. By the time you get up, it's actually stopped. But it's pretty awesome. It's very cloudy. It's very overcast today. I'll bet it's about 70 degrees and a little breeze as usual. Okay, any idea why the USTV Go didn't work for me with Opera browser? I have no idea. Um, yeah, last I tried it, it works for me. I really uh, the only thing I could think of is just make sure you have the VPN set up and you have it set up for North America. Other than that, I really can't tell you. Oh, make sure you turn on the VPN settings. That's exactly. Where do the test kits come from? China, of course. The ones in Ecuador, I believe that's the case, but I'm not positive about it. In the United States, they're being made by private industry, which was a pretty good move. Um, I was called out a number of times, and I answered this in more detail in Thursday's video because there were two things that I missed entirely, and one of the things that I kind of blew it. There was so much noise; it was so distracting. You're fortunate that you don't hear it because of the directional mic, but I was getting so much noise, I got kind of discombobulated and just kind of messed up something. But in talking about the tests, one of the things in the United States, tests have always been available, but they were available through the CDC. So if you went to your doctor, he could do the swab of his swab, the swab of, I think they do the nasal swab and send it off to CDC, and then you'd have to wait for however long. So it was always available, but that's not an efficient way, and it could take you by the time you get the answer back, it could be out of your system. But then there was the kits, which still go to labs. You still have to get them through the doctor, and that's where there were issues. And the CDC was trying to do them because that's the way it had been set up for a number of years, since back before Ebola. I think that was all set up back with the swine flu thing went on, where tens of thousands of people died in the United States. And so that system was still there, but it really is not a very good system. And what they've done now is they do this uh, private and governmental, private and public partnership. And so you've got, these medical companies out there, and they're all, certified now to make these things. So, that's probably the best situation. Here in Colombia, they do something similar to that. You have a pretty big pharmaceutical industry here in Colombia, and they make their own. And so the government's not going to sit there and try to, you know, manufacture kits, so that the private's doing it. In Ecuador, I don't know what the deal is. I have no idea whether $250 to $300. Most places in the world, they're actually free. So I don't get it. So much for the socialist mentality. All right, what else we got? Can you recommend a few good restaurants for me to try during my visit? I assume you mean in Armenia. Sure. La Fogata is always a winner. It's a steakhouse, but they have other things. It's the quality is tremendous. The atmosphere is great. If you like really good Italian, I don't mean the red sauce Italian, but the other style of Italian, more northern Italy, homemade pasta and sauces and things like that. Bianco is really good. Um, for lunches that kind of remind me of like TGI Fridays, but in a good way, not in a bad way. Cravings, I think, is really good. In Colima, I've never been, but I just had enough people tell me that a place called Dar Papaya, which is funny because a no dar papaya is kind of a don't be a fool slang here in Colombia, but it's called Dar Papaya and it's across the road from the Colima Mall. That's a really good restaurant. There's lots of really good high quality restaurants. I have an interview coming out. It's actually done and it's uploaded and it's scheduled for Thursday. I did it that way because I didn't know this Manizales trip, how that was going to go. So I set it up to be an automatic. So that's coming out Thursday, and it's an interview with a gentleman that's been here a couple of times, but he's been living in Costa Rica for the last 4 or 5 years, and he's had enough there, and he's been coming here, and he's kind of fallen in love with Armenia. And we went to lunch at a place called Pan y Chocolate, and at the beginning of the video, I've got some pictures of that. That's a really good restaurant, and it's right across from the Lurales Supermercado, which is right around the corner from Porta El Condillo Olympica Mall. So lots of good. I could go on and on and on of good restaurants, but Todo Chuleta is a really good traditional Condillo cuisine, and they actually have a chef, so it's done really well. Okay. There's a lot of wind here also, but inside the apartment. Yeah, okay. There's a bank ATM you prefer. I had trouble using a couple of them. Yeah, I use Colpatria. It's my favorite because the exchange rate is the exchange rate, which, by the way, right now is over 4,000 pesos to the dollar. We're setting records all over the place. It's amazing. When I moved here less than 2 years ago from Ecuador, it was 2,800, and now it's over 4,000. You know, that amounts to hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. It's taking a lot of pressure off my low income life. So I don't know how long it's going to stay, but that's part of how I'm managing to, save a little, trying to do this amazing trip I have visions of, and I can't wait to get out and do some videos of this secret place. So Colpatria, my number 2 is Davi Vienda. You absolutely want to avoid Bank of Colombia or any of these others because the fees are high. Colpatria, you get the actual exchange rate and there's no fee. Now your particular bank may have some issues. I use Capital One. Davi Vienda is my second choice. You get close to the exchange rate. I think it's about 100 pesos difference, and there's no fees. And the other is you get hit with fees, you get hit with all kinds of stuff, you get screwed on the exchange rate. So those are the only two that I actually recommend. Now, if you're in the airport and they don't have one of those, and I think they are in the airports, but if you're somewhere and you don't, well, then just take out a minimum amount. But that's what I use, and I have no problems with them. Okay, Colpatria ATMs give the best exchange rate. Absolutely. Did they ever finish the new roads that cut travel time between Armenia and Ibagué? It's not a matter of the roads, it's the tunnels. And these are projects that are decades long. They are coming to the end of it. I think, I won't swear to this, you can look it up on the internet. I believe they're scheduled to be done in 2022. When those tunnels open up, there was roads and there were some bridges that were done. So, don't misunderstand me. But the big part of the project that's still being worked on are these tunnels. And the reason it's important, these go through the wicked part of the Andes. I mean, it's like, you know, and you're up there, and this is the main road that goes from the coast where all the shipping containers, all the imports come, and they go on trucks, mostly Mack trucks. They go on these trucks and they go to Bogota. This is the main road. And imagine a windy 2-lane country road with bumper to bumper trucks and buses. You can get some pretty good traffic jams there. And once these tunnels are done, it's going to make a huge difference, not only in distance, but it's going to cut out so much of these traffic issues. And so I'm really looking forward to it. You can get to Ibagué. I mean, you just have to kind of ignore what's going on and just tough out the 5 hours of being on the bus and sitting. You just have to kind of put that out of your mind. When these tunnels are done, this trip will probably be closer to 2 or 3 hours, and there won't be so much sitting. So it's not done yet. I think we've got a couple years before it is complete. It's been an amazing project. This has been the equivalent in scale of like a Panama Canal sort of thing. This is pretty massive undertaking. Okay, any more questions? Don't be shy. We got some time. I've got some time. If you got any questions, load it up, and I'll give it another minute or two. I had my coffee already this morning. Wish I had it now. My throat's, I get talking in these videos, and my throat's always a little raw after, and you add to that. I do have allergies, and what is going on with me actually feels like when I've got some light allergies when pollen season comes around in the United States, but it's really not bad. That's what it feels like that I've got right now. And I haven't really had any allergy symptoms before, but it could be, particularly with a fair amount of rain recently. Who knows? Is the El Centro area worth visiting? For what? That's a tough one for me to answer. I would say yes. I mean, pretty much most things are worth visiting. If you want to see how things are done without the malls, and if you want to go to a commercial area and see what's going on, then you go there. Also, when I was last year, when I was really poor, really destitute, living on Dollar City spaghetti for a while, if I needed to get something, El Centro is a place you can go there and find. You can find things really cheap if you walk around, shop around. So if you're living here, it's definitely a place you should at least know where things are and what things are. And even if you're not desperate, there are some things that you just want to buy there. If you want to buy a new cell phone, that's the place to do it. You don't go to the mall to do it. I mean, you get the same phone a lot cheaper. And if you mean El Centro as in Catorce, as in Bolivar Park and Sucre Park and that, or the walking area, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the highlights of one of the many highlights of Armenia is to stroll around there. It's just a I don't know how to describe it, but it's got an awesome vibe. There's times when I'll just walk down there and just kind of walk around, watch things that are going on, maybe stop and grab a lunch in one of my favorite places down there, and it's just a cool place to be. And if you saw my Halloween video, all those people and all the things that are happening and some craziness, it's that's the center of that kind of activity also. Have prices been increasing in the past year or so? No. And I keep seeing on Facebook, these cynical people that, they spew out all this crap and they say, yeah, well, pesos, but price has been skyrocketing. I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they're living in Medellin where prices are always going up because of people like them that overpay for things. And so you think, oh, $10, that's not too much. So let's make it 12, But here in Armenia, I can't really think of much of anything that's changed since I moved back here. So we're going on, well, in Armenia itself, a year and a half now, and everything's pretty much the same with a couple exceptions. The bus has gone from 1,800 pesos to 2,000, which is actually kind of a good thing because getting change on 18, it was a pain doing the change. Where 2,000, you got 2,000 peso bills or the coins, so it not to have that change transaction, it's worth it. And taxis have gone up. Every year it goes up a little bit. This year, it went up 100 pesos on the minimum fare. So, I mean, you get a little bit that is just part of life that occurs. It has nothing. See, what you need to understand is the peso, like this increase or if it drops, we notice it because we're exchanging money from another country. But if you're within Colombia, if you're getting paid by pesos, you don't notice anything. They wouldn't notice that, all of a sudden I'm getting a lot more for my dollar. I mean, it's not affecting them either way. And prices are not escalating. Now, depending on how long there's craziness with the virus, borders shut down, imports being disrupted, that could cause a spike in some prices, not just here, but everywhere. Or it could cause a depression in prices. I mean, we just don't know. But, after that long answer, the short answer is no. And I keep seeing this on social media, and I tell you all the time, don't believe this crap on social media. There's so many people that either don't know and talk from ignorance, or, and I think there's a lot more of this, there's people that for whatever reason get perverse pleasure out of giving off wrong information. Food prices, that is. No, I'm paying the same for grocery items as I've paid a year ago. Restaurants, using the same menus for the most part. There was one the other day I saw they had changed prices on some things and they used whiteout on it. It was the first time I'd ever been to the restaurant, so I don't even know, they could have done that 2 years ago. I don't know. But the places that I go, it's all the same. My 6,500 peso lunch on the first floor of my building, nothing's changed. As a matter of fact, they actually drop prices. It's a bakery and they sell different kinds of desserts. And they had prices that were around 2,500 pesos for a dessert. And that's now dropped. They're all 2,000 pesos. And that's been like that for a few months now. So, again. Okay, another question. Cafe Candio, where you interviewed the guy that explained coffee grades, blends. Do they serve food too? Yes. Yeah, they do. I've only ever had desserts there. They've got some crazy good desserts. It's a very high-end place. It's everything there is expensive, and only upper class, upper middle class people tend to go there. Now, don't laugh. It's like your money is your money, and it's all a matter of perspective. But it's kind of like it's a comparison to where you can get a good cup of coffee or a latte or whatever in a place like on my first floor. versus going there, it would be like paying $1 for a cup of coffee versus going and paying $6 at a some higher end coffee shop in the U.S. Desserts run the same thing. Where here I can get desserts, for say around $1, but if I go there, I'm going to be spending $4, $5, maybe $6 for a dessert. On the other hand, I don't know if they do their own or if there's some special bake shop out there that I'm not aware of, but they're really good. So I have gone a couple times, get a piece of cheesecake or something with friends. You go and have a snack. They do have a menu. They do have dinners. I assume that it's probably good. I do see on the prices, it could be awesome, but it looks a little pricey. You maybe double what a typical nice restaurant would be. Could be worth every penny of it. I don't know. I kind of don't live in that world. I'm more pedestrian. I'm more blue collar. I live in the range of what a middle class Colombian lives in. Okay. Some good examples there about pricing, and it's true. And pricing, it really is going to vary about where you are, what the circumstances, the situation. Prices are all over the board, but you can assume automatically that in Medellin, in parts of the city, particularly where tourists go, where tens of thousands of tourists are there on any given day, prices are going to be considerably higher. Prices in Medellin are nearly double what they are in Armenia for things like rent. They are double in rent in much of the areas of Medellin. Food prices, restaurant prices, everything's considerably more. I I could maybe live there, but I would have a pretty low middle class, almost impoverished lifestyle. I would be kind of like I would have to spend a lot of time at home. I wouldn't be able to go out and do very much. I don't do a lot now, but I can, and I do sometimes. So my life would not be as good. But the bigger thing for me, I love Medellin as a city, but the pollution is really bad. And with my lung issue, there's no way I could live there. I would want to live there. And the traffic is just, I don't know, the traffic would take the wind out of my sails. You get up and you're in a good mood, and you get out there and you want to go do things. And then you sit in traffic for a while, and it's just kind of like, yeah, what was I excited about? uh, I mean, it's a great place, and if that's what you like, and there's a lot to be said for it. I think it's better if you're involved in a business in some ways where there's a lot of interaction that goes on, or if you're just kind of like, I want to live there and I want to party. I want to go out to the clubs, and I mean, it's built for that. It's kind of like going to New York City, the town that never sleeps. I'm not that kind of person. Now, in Armenia, you got lots of clubs and discos and things to go to, but it's different. I mean, here, those things really don't get going until after 9 o'clock on a Friday and Saturday. And on Sunday, I mean, the city shuts down. It's day to be with your family. It's like ghost town out there. It's more like that. We're in Medellin day or night. I mean, it's just always stuff going on. But it's going to be more expensive because partiers blow a lot of money, and that's what's mostly there. My favorite city, as everybody knows, is I think it's one of the best cities in the world, is Manizales. It's an amazing city. The more time I spent there, the more I appreciated how awesome Manizales is. But I'm living here because I prefer living here. Just I absolutely love Disney World too. But I'm not trying to live in Disney World. And it's one of my favorite places. But it's because the minute you step on the property there, you've left the world and you're living in this amazing fantasy world. It's if you've never been, I can't describe it, but I loved it. I've been there so many times. I used to have season tickets, and I take the kids 2-3 times a year. Absolutely loved it. But uh, I don't know. Maybe if I was filthy rich, maybe I'd live in Disney World. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of very nice places to go visit, but it's not necessarily a practical place to try to live. Okay, do you have COPD? I don't even know what COPD is. Pulmonary. Uh, no. I have scarring in my lungs from. Originally, it happened. I got this plastic urethane paint in my lungs by accident, and so I had to live on respirators, chemicals, pills, for a number of years, and it kind of cleared up. I was told that I would be handicapped my whole life, but it went away, and it didn't return until after living in Cuenca at that altitude for a while, and it manifested itself in I got sick, got pneumonia, and then that last year I was there, I got pneumonia 3 times. And the doctor, I've told this story a few times before, and the doctor said, unless you want to die soon, you can't keep getting pneumonia. And as long as you live here, you're going to be getting pneumonia. So you need to get out of here. And I was already doing trips, back to Colombia, and I'd already come up with this scheme to live here for 6 months and live there for 6 months. But when that happened, all thoughts of different options were gone. And that's it. I'm just moving to Colombia. I love Colombia. It's really where I want to be. And the only reason I wanted to stay in Cuenca in Ecuador was because of the life that I had built up, the people. I was involved in a lot of things, a nonprofit. There's just so many things that I was involved with. And there were some aspects of it I liked that, I was trying to hang on to a part of that. But it was not hard for me to give up ultimately. So COPD, no, it's a lung scarring issue, and the more I get pneumonia, the more it scars. So the more susceptible I am to it, the worse it gets, and that's why I fall into the category of the danger zone of the coronavirus. I would be susceptible to complications just because of that. Are most stores and restaurants open on Sunday? Uh, Actually, yeah, stores, yes. A lot of restaurants are, some aren't, but things will close down early. So, out at 6 o'clock, maybe, some are, some aren't. A lot of places, restaurants close on Mondays after the weekend, so they'll close on a Monday. You kind of have to, like, I was taking a visitor here to Cravings last Monday, and we walked up and it was closed. I didn't check, stupid me. On a Monday, you've got a 50-50 chance that any given restaurant's going to be closed. There's another restaurant, I can't think of which one, but it's one that I like to go to, once in a while, and they're closed on Thursdays. So I mean, it's people do what they want to do, and but when I say Sunday, it's a ghost town, I'm mostly talking about when the sun goes down, so does the town. It just kind of rolls up. It's considered to be family day. Okay. Money's sucks. Don't listen to him. Intentional living, or yeah, intentional lying is paying him. Yeah, I know. It's because you're in Manizales, and I get that. We become very protective of, when we look at places like Medellin or Costa Rica, you see the impact, Cuenca, Ecuador, you see the impact of lots of foreigners. And it doesn't have to be gringos, it doesn't even have to be North Americans. Foreigners in general, they come and just they kind of pollute things, they kind of ruin things, and it's not necessarily intentional, but it's more out of ignorance and thinking that their way of doing things is a better way of doing things. And by the time they realize, they've already had their negative impact. Like rental prices and things like that. And that causes resentment with local people. You know, imagine if you lived in a place in a certain area, you know, all your life, you love it there, your friends, your family are there, but next thing you know, you can no longer afford to live there. You're getting priced out by all these people that are coming in, spending a couple years, bailing, you know, but your entire life has been disrupted over callous, ignorant people like that. You know, so it creates lots of issues, certain animosity. It becomes you know, the gringo pricing thing and all that. And if you're in a place like Manizales or Armenia, where those things don't really exist, you don't want it ruined. And I'm told you be careful with these videos. You don't, you know, it's like I should talk bad about Armenia. Well, I can't. And I was just talking to one of those visitors. I want to come up with a video about you know, like I did in Cuenca, 6 things I don't like or 6 things I hate about, you know, Armenia. I can't. I can't. You know, I'm not going to lie about something just for the sake, and I'm not going to lie about it hoping that you don't come here to ruin my personal life. I think it's far better. This is my answer to people that get mad at me because I do the videos. I think it's far better that with these videos, I'm educating people to these kinds of things. So when you come here, you're prepared and you don't play the fool. You kind of, you know, kind of fit in. I'm fully aware of the culture and the history and what goes on. And if I can let you know about it, you're not only going to not disrupt the good things about it, but your life itself is going to be much better. So anyway, I'm a respiratory therapist. This is why I asked. Okay, fair enough. Do you think a single gay man would feel safe in Armenia or other areas of Colombia? I don't understand why it would be any different. I don't get that. Um, uh, I don't even know how to respond to. Well, yeah, of course, because man, woman, gay, straight, uh, identify as a tree, I mean, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if a place is a certain way, it's going to be a certain way for everyone. Um, and in the United States, you know, most places I've lived in are the same way. I realize every place can be different. Uh, every country, you know, can have its areas, but I, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words on that because I just don't. Let me put it this way, culturally, uh, and I'll speak to here in the Armenia coffee region. Differences in general, people could care less. I've mentioned many times it's a very libertarian society. As long as you stay out of my face, I could care less what's going on. Now, if you're a gay guy and you go up and you just unsolicitedly try to hit on some guy who's going to take offense, he might pop you in the nose. But other than that, he's going to care less. This is a true melting pot. Nobody really cares about any of, you know, those kinds of things. So I don't know how to answer it beyond that. Anybody have any comments on that? That I don't know. I'm not gay. I don't know any gay people here. I had a couple very good friends in the United States that were gay. Uh, I never thought too much about it either way. You know, as long as I mean, it's not my thing. But even if it had come up, I wouldn't have been. I mean, their friend. I wouldn't have been angry. I would have just said, "No, it's just not. It's just not the way I go." You know. Personally, I never thought it was a big deal either way. But okay, any other questions? Yeah. That propina thing. propina is tips, and they're automatically adding tips to bills. And this is a really good example of how outside influence can come in and corrupt and change a society. You didn't see this hardly at all in Manizales or Armenia. You didn't see that practice, and it's a 10%. What happened was so many people from outside of Colombia were coming in and tipping, which is not a custom. The waitress or waiter isn't paid any more or less than the cook, or various positions. It's not like in the United States. It's not a tipping culture. As a matter of fact, it's insulting. I've covered it before. But so many were coming in that restaurants just started automatically adding tips. Well, the government, it was getting to the point when there were so many complaints, the government ended up passing this law that put guidelines on it. Okay, if you're going to put a 10% tip on a bill, then you have to ask permission from the customer, and if they don't want to pay it, they don't have to pay it. Well, what that did was places like here in Armenia were never even considered tipping before. The owners looked at that and said, "Oh, you mean I could be tipping? I could be collecting, tip." In other words, they saw it as being able to raise prices without raising prices. It's just extra income. And if you leave that tip, it goes to the owner. It doesn't go to the waitress or waiter. He looks at that going, "Well, I can just defray my cost." Which is true, because it's not like the waitress or waiter is living off that. They're getting a full paycheck with their health benefits and all the things that come with employment. So outside practices have actually changed the law and the culture. Now here in Armenia, they asked me about the 10%. I just tell them no. Like all the people that I know here do the same thing. They know, what are you, crazy? No. Every once in a while now, you're starting to see people where they just don't even ask. They put the 10% on, and it's up to you to say, "Hey, wait a minute," And I've heard all of these arguments, and I'll tell you, it just comes from a place of not understanding, ignorance, arrogance, of, well, it's only a few dollars. What do you care? And I've covered that so much. I've kind of beat it to death. There's very good explanations for that. And I'm telling you that coming in and doing something that is not the way it's done in the culture, is not about being cheap or being generous or whatever. You're doing something that's not correct for where you're living. And it has unintended consequences. And you're not helping, you're not doing some wonderful thing, and it's so condescending to think, "Oh, these poor little people need that extra 50 cents. I mean, come on. Anyway, don't want to go off on that tangent. Any other questions? Local says it's the norm. Well, if you go to the nicer restaurants, when I lived in Manizales, over a year and a half ago, I lived there for about 3 months. The nicer restaurants, it was the norm that they would put it on. They would ask about the 10%, and I was a little surprised because I'd been to Armenia a whole bunch of times recently, and that never happened. I went there and I did see it. You don't see it. You just go up to a lunch place. I wasn't seeing it then. Maybe that's become a norm, but I can tell you, if he's local and lived there his entire life, he was not seeing it in regular restaurants, because I lived there and it wasn't happening. But he may be referring to the 10%. If you go to Milan and you go to some of those really nice restaurants, yeah, that was there then. I just considered it was because they were just really nice restaurants. But if he's saying his entire life, I know that's not true, because I lived here, unless he's like 10 years old or something. I lived here for a period of time, 18 years ago, and tipping was like totally unheard of anywhere for anything. And I went to some nice restaurants. I mean, it was just completely unheard of. So I don't know. Different people say different things for whatever reason, but um, you would think that I would have seen it at some point. And I also know I looked. I was told actually by somebody who's in government here, and then I went and did a little research. I always kind of verify certain things, and I read about why the law came about, and it's a relatively recent law. So this doesn't go back 20 years. Right in El Cable and Milan restaurants. Exactly. That's yeah. I would agree with that, but I wouldn't say there's no way it was his whole life. Um, because I know what Colombia was like before, and it was not like that. But it has spread, and it has become a common thing. And if he's been seeing it for the last couple of years, maybe it's like, well, as long as I can remember. Before that, my parents took us out, and I never paid attention. So I don't know. I can't speak to one person's comment, but I can tell you what I've seen, which is one person's comment. Have you heard about the YouTuber Miko Worldwide who got arrested in Medellin, is being extradited back to the United States? Nope, never heard the name, don't know anything about it. Um, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what comes out of Medellin, including the videos. Uh, I used to, try to watch, see what's new, but what I noticed with the videos out of Medellin is they're mostly the same things. They're either certain tourist spots, but you also get a lot of them that are just covering girls and nightlife. And it's like, okay, I get it. There's girls in nightlife. How many times you're going to see the same thing? And there's a lot of the walk up to a girl and joke and flirt with her, it seems like that's all the videos. And okay, that's fun. But to see it over and over and over again, it seems like there's a real lack of creativity with people that go to Medellin. I think they get this idea that I'm going to get the channel to blow up if I go up and talk to pretty girls, that the pretty girls are going to blow the channel up. But maybe that even works. I don't know. I have pretty girls once in a while, but it's not for that reason. It just so happens these are people that I know. These are friends that I have, people that I know. If they got some free time, I say, hey, come on, go help me do the video, because I like to have somebody with me. And somebody said, well, how come it's never a guy? Because I don't really have much of any guy friends. I've always, my entire life, had friends that are girl because, I don't know, they're just easier to be around. So, but now you got my curiosity. I guess I'll check. I don't know what he was extradited to the U.S. for, but it wouldn't surprise me. A lot of sleazy things happen around Medellin, mostly because people think that's a good, safe place to go and be sleazy. I know I saw a news thing where there was some guy who was arrested. He was an old guy. It was in the local newspaper. He was arrested for being with an 8-year-old girl. And there is this, I don't know a lot of detail, but I've heard a bit here and there. There's this like underground network operated by the thugs, the criminals, where they grab these young girls and basically prostitute them. And the tourists that come in from U.S., Canada, Europe, or whatever, in other words, Ringo visitors, come in and sleaze up the place. I guess they're trying to turn it into another Bangkok, Thailand, or something. And that's a real shame. Hopefully they crack down. And I know people here in Colombia are so outraged over it. The reason I knew about that headline is a friend I have sent it to me and said, we're going to have to close the borders to everybody coming in. They're going to keep doing this kind of crap, you know. And it's like, whoa, calm down. This is not everybody, but you can imagine how you would feel if you live here and people are bringing this, you know, this kind of stuff in. Well, the market is there, and it's being done by Colombians, but it's being done because there's demand and there's people willing to pay ridiculous amounts of money to be involved in this crap. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's even the guy. I don't know. I like the world that I live in. It's nice. Okay, we've run an hour and 10 minutes, way over what I expected. And I see the viewers are dropping off, so let's just call it a day here. Look for that interview coming up this Thursday, and I'll see you at the next coffee time. Thanks for everything, and to all you contributors out there, you're greatly appreciated. You're what makes it happen.